Hello everybody. In this video, I'm going to start with the first chapter in intercultural communication, or as it is abbreviated, ICC. The first chapter is titled as Introduction to Intercultural Communication. In this chapter, it is necessary to see what is culture, and we have to analyze the definition of culture. And by the end of the chapter, we're going to see some pictures and signs regarding the culture. So let us begin. Culture is defined as the total way of life for a group of people that is learned through interaction, adapted to their environment, and whose aspects are interconnected. Now, regarding to this definition, it is said that culture is a total way of life. So I'm talking about every single aspect in life. So I'm talking about the way they behave with each other, I mean people, the way they eat, the way they celebrate, the way they educate, the way they deal with children or with guests or with adults. So the way they wear clothes, the way that they behave with strangers. So this is the meaning of the total way of life. So I'm talking about every single aspect, every single behavior, every single aspect of the life of a group of people. So once I say a group of people, it means that every community in this world has its own culture. So we have, at the beginning, we have some regions in the world. So we can say the Asian culture, the European culture, and the American culture, then the African culture. Then when we go inside Asia, for example, so we can say that we have the Arabian culture and the, for example, the Japanese or the Chinese culture. Then when we go through the Arabian culture, so I'm talking about some different or many different communities. So we have the Jordanian culture, the Syrian culture, the Saudi Arabian culture, and so on. So every group of people or every community has its own culture. Okay, that is learned through interaction. Now, how can we get the culture? How can we say that the community in Jordan has that culture? This is learned actually, okay? The meaning of learn means that people inside this community interact with some other people outside their land, outside their community, and then they get new aspects or new behaviors. For example, here in Jordan, like when we say 100 years ago, the way to cook, for example, was almost different from the way we cook nowadays. Why? Because many Jordanians travel outside Jordan, they interact with so many people there, and then they learn many aspects and many behaviors regarding the cooking. Okay, so by the end, we say that Jordanian culture now has some aspects that are original from the Jordanian land. And beside that, they learn some new aspects from outside Jordan. They get some new aspects or culture from Syria, from Egypt, from Europe, from America, and so on. So this culture is learned through interaction, adapted to their environment, and whose aspects are interconnected. Okay, now the other definition presented by Lustig and Coaster, it is said that culture is here. It is a learned set of shared interpretations about beliefs, values, norms, and social practices that affect the behaviors of a relatively large group of people. It is similar to the above definition in some way or another, but the structure is different somehow. So the key words in this definition is written here in yellow shadow. So we have to see what is the meaning of learned, what is the meaning of interpretation, and what is the meaning of beliefs, values, norms, and social practices. And here actually we have a discussion or an explanation for every single word of them. Now, when we say learned, it means that humans are not born with a genetic imprint of a particular culture, but it is learned or acquired through a set of interpretations. As you see that, or as I mentioned before, culture is learned. Okay, so when we think about a person who is born today, he will born without a culture, but because he interact with his parents, then his relatives, then the people around him, so by the end he's going to learn how to behave, how to interact, and how to deal with others. And this is a part of culture. So this is the meaning of learned. So it means that humans are not born with a genetic imprint of a particular culture, but it is learned or acquired through a set of interpretations. We will see what interpretations meant by here. So interpretations means what is learned through interacting with parents, relatives, friends, neighbors, and even strangers. So suppose that we have a baby now. For me as his mother, I will teach him how to behave with me as his mother, then how to behave with relatives, how to behave with friends of the family, and how to behave with strangers. Okay, so I'll tell him, or I will teach him that if you meet a friend, so you can trust him, but don't trust strangers, for example. This is a part of the culture that I am teaching him. Now, by the end, when he gets adult, or when he starts to be adult, so a part of his personality, or a part of his culture will be that he is not, or he will not be able to trust strangers on the street. Okay, for example, how families train their children from infancy to adolescence, to teach them that you are now an adult and you have to handshaking the guest. Yes, you don't have to just play and laugh with them. Okay, this is a part of the culture. So you are now an adult, so you have to handshake the guests. You don't have just to play with them or to laugh with them. Once you go to or to a new group of guests or friends, you have to start by saying, for example, Assalamu alaikum, or you have to say good morning. You have to greet them. So this is a part of our culture. Okay, the second interpretation is explanations of the events around them. Culture is taught by the ways in which adults explain events around them to their children to make a sense of their world and to filter incoming messages. Adults explain the meanings of death, and you have to feel sorry about it, disease, war, natural crisis, and how to feel or deal with them. Now, again and again, explanation of many behaviors and many events that we deal with each other is a part of our culture. Actually, my children will be learned that, for example, now the situation is death, so you have to feel sorry. You don't have to laugh in this situation. Now we are visiting somebody who suffers from disease, so I don't have to be noisy. Now we are dealing with some people in a wedding, so you have to be happy. Your dress must be bright, and so on. So I am explaining for my children, why do we wear black clothes in that situation? Because the situation is sad. Why do we wear, for example, bright clothes, bright colors, I mean, in weddings or in birthday parties? Because the situation or the occasion is happy. So I am explaining for my children many aspects or many behaviors regarding some situations. The last interpretation is predictability. Predictability means to provide children with a guideline about what is true and false, what is important and insignificant, what should and should not be done toward a situation. This allows people to behave naturally and positively in everyday activities. For example, sexual harassment harassment is not allowed in all societies. Adults can predict what activities may lead to this and avoid them. This is a part of تربية الأطفال. So I can tell them that you have to predict that if a stranger behave in this way, it means that he's going to do something bad for you. So you have to run out or to run. For example, if someone smiles with you, this means that he is a kind person or he is a friend. If someone waves to you, it means that he needs a help, for example, or he wants to say, to greet you or something like that. So this is the meaning of predictability, to predict the message behind the behavior or the activity of a stranger or if of a friend. So by the end, we said that when we define culture, that it is learned, okay, learned set of shared interpretations. Learned means I am teaching the babies or I am teaching the children the culture through some interpretations. The interpretations will be what is learned through interacting with the people around us, the explanations of activities or events, and the predictability. Okay, now let's go to the second part of the definition, which is about beliefs, values, norms, and social practices that affect the behaviors of a relatively large group of people. Actually, the second chapter of this course will say something in details about beliefs, values, norms, and social practices in chapter 2 and chapter 3. So we will go in deep about them next time. But for now, we will say something in general, something in brief about them. So beliefs, values, norms, and social practices will be discussed, as I've told you, in details in chapter 2, but here are some little examples in Jordan. When we say beliefs, it means the last prophet. Okay, so here we have some examples. So beliefs, when we say the last prophet to humans is Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This is a belief. Okay, now all of them, beliefs, values, norms, and social practices have definition and some other examples in the second chapter. But now it's good to have some examples. Beliefs, it has to do something with my الإيمان يعني. So when I say the last prophet to humans is Muhammad, peace be upon him. So this is a belief. Values, we have hospitality. Norms, it's something like النقود بالمناسبات الاجتماعية. Social practices, it has to do with something like how to eat, how to dress, how to work, how to behave, and so on. Okay. Now we will move to the next point, which is what is interacting? Well, actually, interacting, it means ongoing and influencing each other. Interaction between cultures increased due to these reasons. Now, we have so many cultures in the world because we have so many communities in the world, and this is because we have so many people in the world. Now, interaction or interacting, it means that the culture in Japan will interact with the culture in China and will interact with the culture of Jordan and with the culture of Europe and with the culture of the United States, for example. This is the meaning of interaction. Okay, so interaction between cultures increased due to these reasons. So the interaction between cultures increased due to these reasons. Economic reasons, like international trade, moving all cultural interpretations from one location to another while promoting to their products. Another example is moving people to look for a job, employment, higher standards of living. Yes, so the first reason for the people around the world to interact and so forth to to move all their aspects and behaviors of their culture to another community is economic reasons, like when we say trade, international trade. So when we say international trade, it means that I am dealing with new people, I'm dealing with new cultures, and so on. Okay, next we have another example is when people move to look for a job, for an employment, like many Jordanian when they move to Gulf. So they move their culture to Gulf and vice versa. And when we are looking for higher standards of living, like many people when they immigrate from their countries to Europe or to America just to looking for higher standards of living. So by the end of the day, they are moving their cultures, their aspects, their behaviors to the new country. And the people in the new country will start learning from them. Okay, the second reason is political reasons like war, looking for safety and security, political freedom, and free speech. Actually, the most important, let's say, example regarding the political reasons for the people to interact with each other is war. Like we have many people immigrate from their country because of their war, and again they move all of their cultures and activities and behaviors with each other. Religious reasons, for example, the immigration of many Muslims from Europe or European countries to Asian countries to practice their religious norms and beliefs. Maybe they don't want to be racist because of their religion. We have many examples actually through the history of the world, like the immigration of Muslims from Mecca to Al-Habasha, the immigration of many Muslims from India to many Asian or European countries, and so many other examples. Social reasons like الجلوة العشائرية. This happened inside the same country, but from one city to another city or from one town to another town. And this community or this group of people will move with all their aspects, and they will go to the new city that have already some aspects and culture, and the two cultures will be interacted with each other. Yeah, so this is the meaning of interacting. Interacting means that the first community is mixing with the new community, and by the end, or like the both communities will have their own cultures, aspects, behaviors, norms, and beliefs. Okay, and when they are mixed with each other inside one community, so the result will be a new culture, or not a new culture like a pure new culture, but they have some shared actings from this community and from that community. Okay, now the second point that we have to discuss now is communication. Communication, this word actually will be seen many times through this semester, through the course of ICC. Communication means the way people share meanings through verbal ways or non-verbal ways. Verbal ways, okay, we will see, by the way, these details will be said in deep, okay, not in brief, later on in some other chapters. But for now, we have to have like a brief discussion about the ways of communication. So communication means that people are interacting with each other. They are talking with each other, or they are starting to share some meanings with each other. Now, this sharing or this interacting will happen in two ways, in verbal ways and non-verbal ways. We will see what is the meaning of verbal ways. Okay. Verbal ways, it means the language itself. The language we speak with each other. So any symbols, words, actions, or objects that represent a unit of meaning. The meanings here include perceptions, thoughts, and feelings. Of course, we can interact with each other just to share many meanings, many feelings, emotions, perceptions, thoughts, and so on through words, actions, objects, through the language that we know. So by the end, we have English language, Arabic language, French language, Russian language. Yes. So examples, of course, beside it, we have some symbols. Symbols, what I mean by symbols are the written symbols, like when we see them in advertisements in the streets. For example, when we see heart-shaped image, it means love in many cultures in the world. The word hello, for example, in English is different to say in other languages. Say hello in the language you study. For example, we can say we can say hello in Spanish in a different way from in French, and this is different from Arabic, and this is different from Turkish. What is the meaning of door? Okay, in your language. Now, the word door is different in Arabic from in English, from in French, and so on. Generosity in your language and how to behave to look generous. This is an action. Okay, so this is the meaning of verbal ways. So I'm looking at symbols, words, actions, or objects. So as I've told you before, so symbols, the same as when we say heart. Heart, this symbol is or it refers to love in many cultures. Words, I mean the language itself. Actions, okay, like when you behave in a generous way. And objects, when we say words like door or table or something like that. So all of them are verbal ways to communicate. Now, non-verbal ways to communicate, it means, by the way, before moving through the non-verbal ways to communicate, it's necessary to say that all of these, the verbal ways to communicate, sometimes are the same all over the world, or sometimes are different from one country to another. Now, the non-verbal ways to communicate, it means to communicate by making sounds, gestures, or body movements. And actually, 90% of these gestures or body movements are the same in all over the world. We will get some examples just to explain that for you. Now, when we say gestures, gestures means a movement of a part of the body, especially a hand or a head, to express an idea, feeling, emotion, or meanings. For example, a wave of the hand is a common gesture used to say hello to someone. And this is applicable actually all over the world. When you move your hand, when you wave your hand, just to say hello for somebody. I'll let you see the picture. If we have, okay, there is no picture, it means. Okay. But I'm sure that you know this movement. Okay, or this gesture. Let's continue. Another example, think about how you would describe gesturally tall person or a wide river as you were talking about each of these things. Suppose that you want to describe somebody to somebody else to say that he is tall. So you will move your hand just up, okay? Or you will move your hand down just to say that he is tall, he is short, and so on. Okay, making your hands into a heart shape, just to say that you love somebody, and placing them on your chest might indicate your affection for a loved one. Here are some pictures, as I've told you before. So this movement, for example, this body movement means you have to come in. This means that it's okay. I agree with you. And this one is Victor. This one just to sometimes to threat somebody, or sometimes to say wait for me. So it depends. Okay, we have body movement examples. We have, for example, you can do it by your facial recognitions or your face. So this is to say that you are surprised. And here, the fear, you are scared of something. This is disgust. This is anger. And by the way, we have so many gestures all around the world that they are the same. In general, non-verbal ways for communication are larger and less certain. They are almost different from the verbal ways to communicate, and actually the verbal ways to communicate are different from one country to another, but for the non-verbal, they are the same all over the world. Like when we say 90%. Intercultural communication, which is the ICC, the title of the book, it means the act of creating shared meanings among people of dissimilar cultures. Of course, I think these pictures could explain the exact meaning of intercultural communication. Like here we have so many people. Suppose that this person is from Russia, this person is from France, this is from Jordan, this is from China, Japan, England, Saudi Arabia, and here he's from Brazil. Suppose that all of these people interact with each other. Every one of them will move with himself, some aspects, activities, beliefs, norms, forms, and so on. So when they interact with each other, these ideas, their cultures will be shared with each other. So by the end, we will have something called intercultural communication. Okay, so they are communicating with each other, they are talking with each other and sharing some ideas. And by the end of the day, they are sharing or interacting in a shareable way. This is the discussion of that one. Okay, this is an example just to tell you something about, again, intercultural communication. Suppose that you are in Amman and the one in Irbid. Okay, suppose that now you live in Amman and your neighbor is from Irbid. Irbid is the same, is a city in the same country. So Amman and Irbid are in Jordan. So you will find some differences between you and him regarding the culture, but you will be very similar to each other, 90%. Now, suppose that your neighbor is from Syria, you will find yourself different from him or from her, more than the differences between you and your neighbor from Irbid. Why? Because Syria is another country rather than Jordan, but we are still in the same region, which is the Arabian region. Suppose that your neighbor will be from Japan, so he will be almost different from us because he is coming from different region, different country, different religion, different political system, and so on. So he will be almost different from me. So by the end, we can say that once you are interacting with a person from your country, you will have so many similarities between you and him. But these similarities will be less when you are moving to another country with the same region, and these similarities will be totally different. Okay, will be so many different differences between you and him if you are dealing with a person from outside your country and your region. So this is the end of the first chapter. I will see you in the second chapter next time. Goodbye.